to consider the function f of x equals the cosine of pi over 6x. What is the pi over 6 going to do to the function? Just stretch it, shrink it, whatever. Is it going to change the height of the function? No. So the y value is going to be between, this is the range, 1 and -1. Now, do you remember if the cosine is an odd or even function? Even. That gives you a lot of information when you know that. Okay, find all the zeros of the function in the domain given above. So what I want to do is solve this equation. And there's a couple ways, I guess, to do that. This is the way I see it, and I think it's the easiest way. Well, on the exam, this comes right out of, I think, question 5 out of last year's exam. That is on Schoology, if you want to go look at the original question. It looks a little bit different than this, but you basically have to find the zeros, and you would get a point for making that statement. Then you get a point for finding the zeros. Well, here's what I do to find the zeros. And I make this angle, I'm just going to call it theta. So I want the cosine of theta of some angle to be 0. So if I look at my cosine curve, remember that from yesterday, here's the cosine curve. Where is this? 2 pi. This is at pi, not a great picture, but it's okay. Remember where this one is? This is one of the zeros, pi over 2. This one is 3 pi over 2. And it goes on forever. And you're saying, but I have a domain restriction. That's true, but I'm going to have to extend my thinking a little bit to make sure I get everything in the domain. So my theta is equal to 0. My angle, the cosine of my angle is 0 when the angle is pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. What's the next one? 5 pi over 2. And we could keep going, right? Let's do the 7 pi over 2. It didn't tell me what x was. Oh. But theta is also not my angle. My theta is pi over 6 times x. So what I'm going to do is take my angle, I'm going to replace theta with pi over 6 times x has to equal pi over 2. And you should be able to do that in your head. The pi's are going to cancel. You're going to multiply by 6. So what's the first x value? 3. Pi's are gone. Okay, then you're going to do pi over 6. Pi x over 6. What was my next one? 3 pi over 2. The pi's will cancel. Multiply by 6, so I got to take 3 halves of 6. Or 18 divided by 2. What is it? 9. Now, because this is periodic, where will the next one be? Look at the difference between the 3 and the 9. 15. You could solve this equals 5 pi over 2, and you'll see x is equal to 15 by solving it, but I'm only between 0 and 12, so you have to limit yourself. But you have to think, because sometimes if they had said 0 to 20, yeah, you'd have to include that one. So you see what I did? All I did was I said, let's call my angle here, call that thing theta. Found out where that was 0, and but that's not theta. That really is pi over 6 times x. And I get equations I can solve. That's how I've always taught it in pre-calc. I think that's the easiest way. You could use the fact that it's periodic, find the period, and find all the zeros, but I think that's harder. I like to keep things simple. Is that okay?